Anime has a way of exploring fear like nothing else. Not just gore, not just jump scares. I'm talking about dread, the kind that crawls under your skin and stays there, the kind that makes you glance over your shoulder long after the screen fades to black. You see, horror in anime isn't confined to the haunted house or the monster under the bed. It's in the small towns where everyone smiles too wide, the schools with one empty desk too many, the curse you inherit just by watching. So tonight, we're opening the door, we're stepping into the dark. These are the top 10 horror anime. Not just terrifying, but unforgettable. Some will twist your mind, others will break your heart, and a few might just follow you into your dreams. Dim the light, plug in your headphone, and remember, once you enter, there's no guarantee you'll come back the same. Starting the list with number 10, Elfen Lied. It begins with a smile and a massacre. Elfen Lied is a brutal, controversial classic that blends tragedy, gore, and psychological horror into something unforgettable. At its core is Lucy, a girl with invisible telekinetic arms, a murderous past, and a fragile humanity buried beneath trauma. The horror in Elfen Lied is both physical and emotional. The opening scene alone cements its reputation. A naked girl calmly decapitating guards as blood paints the wall. But behind the violence is a story of abuse, isolation, and what happens when society rejects its own monster. The Clonii, like Lucy, are born different, horned, feared, and experimented on. The series asks, what creates a killer? Is it nature or the cruelty of others? As Lucy forms a bond with a kind-hearted boy, her fractured personality flickers between innocence and wrath. The art swings wildly, soft, almost romantic visuals contrasted with shocking brutality. Characters are cute, sometimes absurdly so, but that just makes the horror hit harder. And the music, especially the haunting Latin hymn Lilium, is a perfect contrast to the carnage. Elfen Lied is far from perfect. It's messy, excessive, sometimes exploitative, but it's also raw and deeply human. It doesn't shy away from pain, emotional or physical. It embraces it, forces you to sit with it. You won't walk away from Elfen Lied comfortable, but you will walk away changed. Now on number 9, Dark Gathering. What happens when you trap a psychic medium, a cursed child, and a room full of angry spirits together? You get Dark Gathering, a modern ghost-hunting horror that combines creepy visuals with real emotional stakes. Keitaru is a shut-in, cursed by spirits after a childhood incident. Yayoi is a mysterious girl with a deadpan stare and an obsession with finding her mother's ghost. Together, they start investigating haunted places. Not for fun, but to confront death head-on. What sets Dark Gathering apart is its commitment to escalating danger. Each ghost encounter feels like a boss battle. The designs are grotesque, spirits with gaping mouths, limbs bent wrong, eyes that shouldn't exist. And the show doesn't shy away from darkness. Kids die, parents vanish, and sometimes saving a soul means destroying it. The horror here is multi-layered. There's the supernatural tension, jump scares, possession, violent hauntings, but also the emotional horror of loss, trauma, and inherited curses. The trio of protagonists all carry psychological baggage, and each mission pushes them closer to breaking. Visually, the anime shifts between normalcy and nightmare quickly. A sunny street can turn into a hellscape. Cute designs can twist into terror without warning. It keeps you on edge, always unsure where the next scream will come from. Dark Gathering reminds us that the living and the dead are rarely separate, and sometimes the most haunted thing in a room is the person. On number 8, Junji Ito Collection. What if nightmares had a curator? The Junji Ito Collection brings the master of Japanese horror manga to life, one short terror at a time. Each episode adapts one or more of Ito's famous stories, capturing his blend of psychological horror, body grotesquerie, and surreal unease. You'll meet Suichi, a cursed prankster with a mouthful of nails, Tommy, the woman no man can resist and no one can kill, and the endless horrors lurking behind closed doors, beneath skin, inside mirrors. These stories don't follow conventional rules. They end suddenly. They rarely resolve. They exist to disturb. The animation style is divisive. It can't fully replicate Ito's masterful line work, but it tried, with thick shadows, exaggerated expressions, and surreal movement. What it loses in polish, it makes up for in atmosphere. Episodes feel like snapshots of cursed moment. The strength of this series lies in variety. One episode is pure body horror. Another plays out like a ghost story. A third, a tragicomic descent into madness. And because each tale is short, they hit quickly, like flashes of a very bad dream. There's no continuity, no safe character, just the signature dread of Junji Ito's imagination, where the horror often lies not in the monster, but in what it represents: obsession, vanity, regret, decay. You don't watch the Junji Ito collection for answers. You watch it to feel the unease of things that shouldn't be, and know that they are. Up next on number 7. Another, a curse, a forgotten student, a class that refuses to speak of the dead. Another is the kind of horror that thrives on silence, on the things left unsaid. Set in Yomiyama North Middle School, it begins with a transfer student, a girl with an eye patch, and a class roster that doesn't quite add up. What follows is a slow spiral into chaos. Students start dying, brutally, inexplicably. A falling object, a staircase accident, a simple umbrella, all become instruments of death, and the class, trapped in a ritual of denial and survival. The show builds its horror on atmosphere. Hallways feel too quiet. Windows rattle even when there's no wind. The color palette is muted, as if the world itself is mourning. And yet, nothing is ever fully explained. The curse isn't a monster you can kill. It's a presence, an inevitability. Another excels in its ability to shock. Some of its death scenes are infamous, sudden, graphic, and often ironic. But what elevates the series is its pacing. It lets you get comfortable just long enough to yank the floor out from under you. There's a mystery to unravel, yes. Who is the extra student? Why does no one remember the original tragedy? But this isn't just a puzzle box. It's a meditation on grief, guilt, and the human need to forget what hurts. And then there's Mei Misaki. Quiet, spectral, almost doll-like. Her detached manner masks a deeper sadness. She's the show's emotional anchor, and perhaps its only guide through the nightmare. In Another, horror doesn't always scream. Sometimes it just sits in the back of the class, waiting to be noticed. Now on number 6, Goblin's Box. At the intersection of the occult and the intellectual lies Moryu no Hako, also known as Goblin's Box. It's horror as mystery, where ancient folklore meets post-war paranoia. Set in 1950s Japan, the series opens with a train accident and a severed head that begins a chain of disappearances. Girls are going missing, and when they're found, it's in pieces, boxed, preserved, ritualized. This isn't your typical horror. Goblin's Box is dialogue-heavy, steeped in cultural reference and historical subtext. Think more Serial Experiments Lane meets The Ring. Investigators, authors, spiritualists, and journalists all circle the mystery, their overlapping perspectives slowly revealing the monster hiding in plain sight. The animation is subtle but atmospheric. Cigarette smoke curls through a detective's office. Faces are often in shadow. There's a constant sense of quiet tension, like something's watching from the next room. The horror here isn't loud. It's slow, cerebral, and claustrophobic. What makes this series uniquely terrifying is its blend of real-world logic and supernatural horror. As the mystery deepens, questions arise. Are the murders part of a cult ritual, a psychological breakdown, or something ancient feeding on belief itself? Characters in Moryu no Hako are often more philosophers than people. They discuss the nature of identity, the fear of losing oneself, and how narratives shape reality. This makes the horror more abstract, but also more unsettling, because here, stories kill. Boxes trap more than bodies. They trap souls, memories, even timeline. And the further you peer into the mystery, the more you realize you've become part of the story too. Goblin's Box demands patience. But those who enter its labyrinth find something rare, an intelligent, haunting meditation on horror itself. Now on number 5, we have Mononoke. Elegant, surreal, terrifying. Mononoke is not just horror, it's horror as art, a spiritual successor to Ayakashi samurai horror tales. This series follows the enigmatic medicine seller as he travels through Edo-era Japan, exorcising malevolent spirits known as Mononoke. But to do so, he must uncover 3 things: the spirit's form, its truth, and its reason. Each arc is a self-contained ghost story, and everyone unfolds like a painted nightmare. The visuals are unlike anything else in anime. Flat patterns, bold lines, clashing palette. Rooms shift, walls breathe. The world bends as if reflecting the trauma of the spirits within. But don't be fooled by the beauty. Mononoke dives deep into psychological terror. Its monsters are born from human emotion, grief, guilt, betrayal. The medicine seller doesn't fight with swords. He confronts the hidden sins of the living, forcing confessions from haunted souls. The storytelling is dense, almost theatrical. Dialogue is cryptic. Motifs repeat. Each arc becomes a mystery to solve, one where the horror lies not just in the ghost, but in the human heart that created it. This isn't just about exorcism, it's about judgment. Voice acting and sound design are key. The medicine seller speaks in riddles, calm but unnerving. And the spirits, distorted, echoing, often shrieking, sound like echoes from a dream you don't remember having. More than jump scares, Mononoke creates unease through rhythm and ritual. The exorcism sequences are elaborate, ceremonial, almost sacred. They build tension not with screams, but with silence and revelation. In a genre often ruled by gore, Mononoke is proof that horror can be elegant, that the most terrifying demons are not the ones that attack, but the ones that ask you why they were born in the first place. On number 4, Shiki. At first glance, Sotoba is peaceful, a quiet, forested village far from the chaos of the city. But isolation breeds rot, and in Shiki, that rot comes in the form of death, slow, creeping, and relentless. Shiki is a vampire story, but don't expect capes or castles. These vampires are subtle. They return from the dead with familiar faces and knock politely at your door. And as the summer heat rises, the town's population begins to fall, one by one. The anime starts as a mystery. People are dying. Illness, they say. Coincidence, perhaps. But the bodies don't stay buried, and as the villagers grapple with the truth, Shiki explores more than just horror. It examines morality, fear, and what it means to be human or not. The art style is deceptively vibrant, with wild hairstyles and glowing eyes that make characters feel more doll-like than alive. This contrast heightens the surreal dread. And the music? A haunting mix of ambient tones and unsettling strings, building unease even in stillness. What makes Shiki so effective is its pacing. The horror simmers. You watch denial give way to desperation. Heroes become monsters. Monsters seek sympathy, and the line between good and evil dissolves. This is a show where the scariest moments aren't when the Shiki strike, but when people justify why they should. Shiki reminds us that horror isn't just what comes from the dark. It's what lives in our hearts when we believe we're right. On number 3, we have Uzumaki. There's something wrong in Kuruzucho. It's not a ghost, not a killer. It's a shape, a pattern, a spiral. In Uzumaki, horror isn't a monster. It's geometry. Junji Ito's legendary manga finally comes to life in the 2024 anime adaptation, and even in limited release, it's already leaving its mark. Uzumaki tells the story of a town slowly consumed by obsession with spirals. It starts small. A man transfixed by snail shell, a woman terrified of whirlpool, but the madness spreads. Hair curls into impossible shape, bodies twist into spiral, even time begins to turn. The anime leans heavily into Ito's distinct visual style, using black and white contrast to replicate his inked horror. Every frame feels like a moving manga panel, tight, tense, and deeply unnatural. It's not jump scares that get you. It's the way things feel wrong, subtly, irrevocably. This adaptation's strength lies in tone. Sound design is minimal, eerie. The music is sparse, sometimes absent, letting dread grow in silence. And when something breaks that quiet, it's often grotesque, a creaking limb, a whispered gasp, a wet crunch. But above all, Uzumaki is existential horror. It's not about surviving a monster, it's about being pulled into inevitability. The spiral is everywhere. It's part of nature, of death, of rebirth. You can't run from it. And the more you try to understand it, the deeper you're drawn in. Few anime dare to be this abstract, this patient, this visually loyal to a nightmare. Uzumaki doesn't just adapt a manga, it hypnotizes. And once you see the spiral, you'll never unsee it. Up next on number 2, Yamishibai, Japanese ghost stories. Not all horror needs 20 episodes or a big budget. Sometimes, a 5-minute tale told in shadows can freeze your blood. Yamishibai, Japanese ghost stories is exactly that, a minimalist anthology that draws from urban legends, folklore, and primal fears. The series mimics kamishibai, a traditional paper theater storytelling style. Each episode begins the same. A yellow-masked man appears at sunset, summoning children to hear a ghost story. What follows is a brief, stylized animation that feels more like a creepy bedtime story than a typical anime. What makes Yamishibai terrifying is its restraint. The animation is limited. Characters barely move, but this only enhances the unease. Each tale unfolds slowly, with long silences, sharp sound cues, and a final disturbing twist. There's no time for comfort or closure, just fear and the end. Some episodes tap into classic Japanese yokai mythology. Others feel ripped straight from modern urban legends. Haunted apartment elevators, cursed phone numbers, faceless neighbors. And the best part? You never know what kind of horror you'll get. Psychological, supernatural, existential, it's all fair game. Yamishibai is incredibly accessible. You can binge 10 stories in under an hour, but be warned, this isn't light viewing. The dread creeps in quietly and lingers. It's the kind of series that makes you hesitate before turning off the lights. With over 10 seasons and dozens of stories, not every episode hits the mark. But the ones that do, they hit hard and fast. A masked man waits at dusk. The paper flutters. The story begins, and once it's told, you'll wish it hadn't been. Finally at the top on number 1, Higurashi, When They Cry. It starts innocently enough. A quiet countryside village, childhood friends, summer festivals, and playful teasing. But in Hinamizawa, nothing is ever that simple. Higurashi, When They Cry, is psychological horror at its most deceptive. Underneath the schoolyard, laughter lies a deeply disturbing cycle of paranoia, madness, and brutal violence. Adapted from the visual novel series, Higurashi lures you in with Moe-style character designs and slice-of-life innocence. Then it shatters everything. Each story arc resets time, placing the same characters in a new version of events, only with increasing dread. Trust turns to suspicion, friends become killers, and the audience left guessing whether the horror is supernatural or psychological. What makes Higurashi terrifying isn't just the gore, though it's there in spades. It's the descent into madness, the way characters, driven by fear and trauma, unravel before your eyes. One episode might have you laughing along with a picnic scene. The next, you're watching that same character claw at their throat, eyes wide with hysteria. Sound design plays a crucial role. The insect drone of cicadas becomes an omen, a ticking clock, a creaking door. Each simple sound is weaponized to build unbearable tension. And just when you think you understand the rules, the story bends again. Beneath the horror lies commentary on community secrets, abuse, and the consequences of isolation. It's a puzzle box of tragedy, horror, and ultimately hope, but only if you can endure the terror to get there. Higurashi doesn't ask if you're ready. It smiles sweetly and drags you in anyway. And there you have it, 10 doors into 10 different nightmares, some rooted in folklore, others in the human psyche, but all of them unforgettable. The beauty of horror anime is that it doesn't play by the rules. It can be surreal, tragic, poetic, and yes, horrifying. It's not just about what you see, it's about what stays with you. So tell me, which one will keep you up tonight? Was there an anime we missed? One you think deserves a spot in this cursed collection? Let me know in the comments. And if you're the type who walks willingly into the dark, you might want to hit that subscribe button. We've only just begun. Until next time, don't answer when something knocks twice.